let's switch. I'm going to skip ahead on the outline a little bit because I want to get to this guy, because this to me is somebody that we are very familiar with over here. We talked about this guy since he was a young player in high school at Dillard High School, and he's had a road, right? He's had a road where he was emerging as you had that year in 2022 where in South Florida you had Shamar Stewart, first round pick, Kenyatta Jackson, who's now starting for Ohio State, Marvin Jones, who's had a little bit of a road, but now is starting for Oklahoma, R. Mason Thomas, who was the best pass rusher for Oklahoma. And then you had Nyjalik Kelly, right? This was a golden age of South Florida pass rushers, that 2022 class. And a lot of people thought that even with Shamar Stewart as the highest rated guy around, that Nyjalik Kelly had the most upside. Top 100 recruit, ended up signing with Miami with Mario Cristobal's first class, had injuries, didn't work out, then had more serious injuries at UCF. But you look at the numbers, 44 pressures, 16 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks in his 19 games at UCF. So he's been productive when he's there. And then this year, 15.6% run rate. The pass rush is there, 19th in the win rate with 30.3%. And the physical dimensions are great. You said something that caught my eye, and I'm not pushing back. This guy could be a top 100 pick.
Yeah, I mean, he certainly looks the part in basically every box is checked physically, athletically. You can tell why he was a former big-time recruit. And this is just a guy who basically, ever since he got to college, he's had a knack for when he gets pressure, he's probably going to get a sack more often than not. So PFF doesn't chart like half sacks, but they just like charted as a full sack. He has 65 pressures going back to his time at Miami. 16 of those resulted in a sack. 11 of those resulted in a QB hit. That's a pretty high rate. He had 15 pressures, 5 sacks in his true freshman year at Miami. So high-level pass rusher. We see that he's got the run stop rate, which ranks first nationally this year. We'll see if he can keep it up.
I have an interesting picture here I'm going to pull up just to show, kind of where he was at a certain point. And we saw some Canes fans here on the chat, but look how much he's filled out. This is when he was dealing with his injuries there with Akeem Mesidor, Miami defense. This was a couple years ago, man. November 19th, 2023. Shout out to our boy Dolphin Derek. But you just see how his body was now where it needed to be. He came into to college young. So I give him credit for getting his body right. Not only, getting right from injuries, but putting the necessary weight on. And, I think this just goes to show you, as again, we have a lot of Canes fans who are still on this stream. And people say, well, look at these guys who go elsewhere and develop. I think in general, man, at the pass rush position, guys take time to take a few years to marinate. So Elijah Roberts, he's another one who took a couple years to get going from Miami, ended up at SMU. These guys those trenches are such a position of maturity. Sometimes it's very difficult to a guy who comes in at a young age, hit it right off the bat. And then you understand in today's era, they're going to recruit over you. And nice to see him find a good spot like UCF and get himself right there.
Yeah. And, go ahead, Fink.
Yeah. So I think he might just kind of be turning it on at the right time right now. He had 4 run stops in each of his last 2 games entering this week, which is a very impressive mark for an edge rusher. And then in this week against West Virginia, 86.7 pass rush grade, 9 pressures, 2 sacks, 1 QB hit. So he's really seems, and a forced fumble as well. And he's got 5 forced fumbles in his 2 seasons at UCF. So yeah, we'll be monitoring that one because he could definitely be a wild card in this draft class that could really, really rise up boards.
Yeah, between him, it's amazing. Just you go back and look at that class. So Kenyatta Jackson, who's I think he's playing well enough to get drafted just on his traits. When you're starting Ohio State, you're pretty much going to get drafted somewhere.
I loved Kenyatta Jackson after the 2023 season. He was a rotational guy for them. There was some buzz he might enter the portal. I was super, super high on him.
Shamar Stewart already, first round pick. Now we're seeing Kelly do his thing. R. Mason Thomas, he's one of the best pass rushers in the country, so you expect him to be a high pick. I guess Marvin Jones, I mentioned he was starting at Oklahoma. I don't know if he's starting. I should have corrected myself. He's playing, and we'll see. I know you saw him at FSU, and he was disappointing last year, but A lot of these South Florida pass rushers, someone mentioned in the chat, Elijah Roberts from the class of 2020, who's playing well for the Tampa Bay Bucks, someone who signed with Miami, then transferred to SMU. There's just a lot of these guys, man. Dallas Turner, of course, at Alabama. We know what Benito's doing. We know what Brian Burns and Bosa brothers Rousseau are doing. Of course, Ruben Bain, probably going to be I kind of buried the lead there. He's a year older than those guys, or you're younger. They were all the class of 22. He's the class of 23, but he's probably going to be the first pass rusher selected. So those South Florida defensive ends are really, really making an impact in the league. I believe South Florida right now is the mecca of defensive end play. So, Pete, let me know. Take a look. Which topic you want to hit, Pete? What catches your eye down here on the out?